बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम वसल्लल्लाहु अला नबील करीम रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी वयस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली. The topic for this evening is peaceful activism versus violent activism. This is the most urgent problem. I think everyone is obsessed with this problem because everywhere there are terrorist activities, people are victim of these activities. So everyone want to know what is the genesis of this problem and how we can solve this problem. Recently, the tiger terrorist of Lanka, that is Prabhakaran, was killed by Lankan army. So apparently it was a good news. Then, there is a crackdown against Taliban by the Pakistani army. There are some other news of this kind. But according to my analysis, these operations, that is military operations, are not enough to eliminate the menace of terrorism. These people, what is the wrong with these people? These people take it as gun versus gun problem. So they want to crush it by gun. But I don't think that is simply a gun problem. If it were a gun problem, then now there were no problem after so many operations. So you see the result. You have to see the result. Result is not positive. Here I recall a very well-known dictum of UNESCO. UNESCO is a special branch of United Nations. The main purpose of UNESCO, that is our international organization under UNO. So the main purpose of UNESCO is to establish peace and cooperation between different nations. This is their purpose. So they have opted a very well-known dictum, that is, violence begins from mind. It means that violence begins from a violent ideology. Mind creates ideology. So every violent activism is brainchild of an ideology. So without having a counter ideology, you cannot eliminate all these terrorist activities. This is the problem. Now, what is that ideology by which we can counter all kind of this terrorism? I have studied this problem in detail. I found the solution in Islamic teachings. So I would like to give you a brief about my studies in Islam in this regard. First of all, what is the definition of terrorism? What is the definition of terrorism? I think there are a lot of confusion. There is no accepted definition of terrorism available in the media or among scholars. I tried to define it in the light of Islamic teachings. So, according to Islam, the definition of terrorism is use of use of arm by agencies other than state. This is the definition of Islam. So, according to this definition, all those activities we know throughout the world are not legitimate activities. Those leaders who are responsible of these terrorist activities, they call it freedom struggle. This is not freedom struggle. So, according to Islam, the definition of terrorism is that use of arms by agencies other than state. So, these are people are non-governmental organizations. No government is involved in these activities. So, this is the first point. These activities are to be condemned. We have to condemn it, outright condemn, because they are not legitimate activities. They have option for peaceful activism. They can do anything by the peaceful method. If they have some complaint, if they have some problem, they're allowed to solve that problem, but strictly following the peaceful means, peaceful methods. This is the first principle I have learned from the Islamic teachings. Islam disowned, Islam condemns all these activities because these are not legitimate activities. In all these activities, those people who are engaged in all these activities, they are not part of government. They are part of NGOs, that is non-governmental organizations. So they can launch their movement through peaceful means and not through violent means. Then the other point, all these people, I have met so many people, I know their mind, and all these people, perhaps without any exception, they say that we want justice. Justice is a very ambiguous term. It has a well-defined term. So if you ask these people why you are engaged in violence, why you are killing people, do you don't you like peace? They will say that yes, we want peace. Why not? But we are denied of justice. So give us justice, and we will give you peace. It's a well-known formula of these people. We want peace, but with justice. In our Arab, people say, Assalam al-adl. Assalam al-adl means peace with justice. But according to Islamic teachings, this is wrong. It's very important to know this point. According to Islamic teachings, justice is not part of peace. Justice is not a part of peace. Justice is part of your own struggle. According to Islamic teachings, you have to establish peace at any cost. At any cost. Why? Because it is peace that opens the door of opportunities. Peace is very, very important in terms of opportunities. Where there are peace, there are opportunities. So according to Islamic teachings, you have to follow this method. It is it is that so there are two two phases. First of all, you have to establish peace. Peace at any cost, at any cost. And when there is peace, there are opportunities. Peace always opens the door of opportunities. And then, by availing those opportunities, you can obtain justice and all other things. So the formula of Islam is that, first of all, you have to establish peace. Then, by your own effort, peaceful effort, you have to struggle, and through struggle you can achieve all kind of justice and honor and everything. This is the Islamic formula. Islam detaches peace and justice. It's very, very important. It's a very revolutionary teaching of Islam. A revolutionary teaching of Islam. That justice is not a part of peace. No peace can give you justice directly. No, not at all. It is impossible. Justice is result of your own efforts. So first of all, you have to establish peace. Then you have to avail those opportunities and achieve justice and other things you require. Then, if you read the Quran, Quran is a very important book. Although Quran is relatively a small book, there are not details of ibadat or law. In Quran you can find details of law, details of ibadat. No. Islam gives the basic principles of life. Basic principles of life. You know, God created this world. This world is controlled by God. God set the laws of nature. So Quran is a statement of these laws. In Quran you can find what is the creation plan, how you can achieve your goal, because this is a 50-50 issue. Your effort are 50% and nature plays part 50%. You cannot achieve anything by denying the law of nature. I always say that if anyone wants to deny the law of nature, then he must create a new world, new universe. This world was created by God, and there are some very well-known laws laid down by God. So you have to follow that laws. Otherwise you will suffer. Otherwise, you will suffer. So, as we have no power to create a new world, so we have to adjust with this world. We have to adjust with this law. So, one principle of of one aspect of this law is given in this verse. As-sulhu khair. As-sulhu khair means peace is the best. Peace is the best. Now, what is peace is the best? What it means? It means peaceful activism is the best, and violent activism is not best. This is the law of nature. In this world that is created by God, you can achieve anything, but with peace, with peaceful activism. If you adopt violent activism, then you cannot do anything, cannot achieve anything. According to the law of nature, peaceful activism is constructive activism, and violent activism is destructive activism. This is the definition of natural law. According to the nature, according to the laws of nature, violent activism is destructive activism, and peaceful activism is constructive activism. So, if you adopt violent activism, it means that you are creating destruction. Then it is not possible to achieve any positive result. So, you have no option other than to opt for peaceful activism. There is a very relevant hadith. Hadith means saying of the Prophet of Islam. Prophet of Islam has said, Inna Allah yoti ala rifq ma la yoti ala al-unf. It means God grants to non-violence what He does not grant to violence. This is like commentary of that verse, that Quranic verse. It means that this world that was created by God, if you want to achieve anything, then you have to stick with peaceful method. God grants to non-violence what He does not grant to violence. So if you want to have any positive result, if you want to achieve something, then you have to stick to peaceful method. You have to abandon all kind of violence. Otherwise, you will be failure. You will suffer. This is the clear statement of Quran and Hadith. There is no doubt about it. I know that all those people, all those Muslim jihadis who are engaged in terrorism, they recite some verses, but they are wrong. Out of context, you can infer anything. If you go against the context, that is siyaq, then you can say anything. For example, there is a verse in the Quran, La taqrabu salat. Don't read namaz. Someone can say that this is the Quran. Why we read namaz? But it's not the full verse. It is out of context. The full verse is La taqrabu salat wa antum sukara. It means that don't read salat when you are in a state of intoxication. This is the full verse. So all those verses that referred by Muslim jihadis, are wrong. They are out of context. Out of context. The very activities by these activities are unlawful. Why? Because you know there is a well established principle in fiqh that ar-rahilu lil imam. Ar-rahilu lil imam. It means to declare a war is a prerogative of state. To declare a war is a prerogative of state. When you take this principle, you are compelled to say that all these jihadis are unlawful, are engaged in unlawful activities. They are not government, they are not state. So the very existence of these Muslim jihadis is unlawful. They are not allowed to use arm, not at all. This is the Islamic teaching. Then I will give you some examples from the Prophet of Islam. There is a verse in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. In the Prophet, there is good example for you. In this verse, it is a Quranic verse. In this verse, Uswa Hasana, or good example, is not in some limited sense. It doesn't mean that when you want to read namaz, then you will find example in the Prophet's life. When you want to perform Hajj, then there is an example in the Prophet's life. This is this is this is I would like to say that namaz and Hajj is also included in this uswa, in this example. But all other affairs of life is also included in this verse. So how to launch a movement is also included in this uswa. It means that if you want to take, if you are a reformer, if you are a revivalist, and you want to do something, then you have to follow the principle of the Prophet of Islam. Now, I would like to give some examples from the life of the Prophet of Islam. You know, Prophet of Islam, Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was born in Mecca. He started the mission in 610 AD in Mecca. He remained over there up to 13 years. Then he migrated to Medina. All these periods give us so many examples of peaceful method. There is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that Ma khuyyira Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam bayna amrayn illa ikhtara aysarahuma. It means that whenever the Prophet had to choose between the two, he always opted for easier course of action rather than harder course of action. In other words, peaceful course of action rather than violent course of action. This is the basic principle of Prophet of Islam. This was the general policy of the Prophet of Islam. This hadith gives us what was the general policy of the Prophet of Islam. Now let us take some examples. When the Prophet started his mission in 610 AD, at that time, Makkah was under the Mushrik peoples. Kaaba was under their tawliyat, that is trusteeship. So they have placed 360 idols in Kaaba. Kaaba was built by Ibrahim, Hazrat Ibrahim, as a Baitullah, house of God, house of Tawheed, house of one God. In later period, Mushrik people placed 360 idols. That was trespassing. That was quite unlawful. And Prophet of Islam was Prophet of Tawheed. He used to convey his message in these words: Ayyuhan nas qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. O people, say that there is no God but one God, and you will find success. This was his mission. But he never touched those idols. Never touched those idols. He never tried to destroy those idols. Even he never protested against these idols. He never protested. He never demanded. He never tried to destroy those idols. He simply avoided. He simply followed the principle of avoidance. Avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. So his policy was avoid the unwanted situations and do your work constructively. This was his formula. Up to 13 years he lived in Mecca and he never touched those idols. And he never tried to register his complaint against those idols. Why? Because this was bound to create controversy. It was bound to create fighting and war. Those people were very sensitive. Then what happened? Those people were mushrik people, idol worshippers. They were not ready to accept his mission, although it was completely peaceful mission. His mission was a peaceful mission in complete sense of the word. Even then they became hostile. And finally they wanted to kill him. Finally they wanted to kill the Prophet of Islam. But what happened? Prophet never tried to go to fighting. But he silently, in the darkness of light, he migrated from Mecca to Medina. This is called hijrah. Hijrah literally means migration, but it's not simply migration. It was change in the workplace. It was to change the workplace. Makkah was a workplace with the confrontation, with violence. So he left Makkah and he entered Medina. At that time, Medina was quite different from Makkah. So he changed his workplace from Makkah to Medina. This was the one application of the principle of avoidance. Then what happened? When he migrated from Makkah and he settled in Medina and wanted to spread his mission from Medina. Then Meccan people more became angry. Then they planned to attack Medina through army. So they did this. They, so there was some wars like Battle of Badr, Badr of Hunain, and Badr of Uhud. Mainly, there were three wars. Then Prophet of Islam dispassionately assessed the situation. Dispassionately, he found that these wars have disturbed all the situation. There is no normalcy. So dawah work is now stopped. There is no dawah work. Dawah work, dawah work require interaction. Interaction. At that time, there is no interaction between the followers of Muhammad and other people. So there was no dawah work. Then Prophet of Islam entered into a, a peace treaty that is called Hudaybiyah. It is very important to know that what was Hudaybiyah agreement. Hudaybiyah agreement was between Prophet of Islam and the Meccan people. So Meccan people, Prophet of Islam said, we want peace. We want peace. We don't like war. War and fighting is not a kind of our mission. Then Meccan people said, yes, we are ready to establish peace, but there are conditions. They laid down their conditions. It is very strange to know that Prophet of Islam accepted all those conditions unilaterally. All those conditions presented by the other party. The Prophet of Islam accepted all those conditions unilaterally, only for one purpose, that after accepting these conditions, there will be peace. So after accepting all the conditions laid down by Meccan people, he was able to achieve peace. There was agreement that is called Hudaybiyah agreement. Hudaybiyah agreement was basically a no-war pact. You can see this in books that Hudaybiyah agreement was basically a no-war pact. From this date, there is no war between the two groups. So Prophet of Islam was able to establish peace by accepting their conditions unilaterally. Then what happened? All the door opportunities opened. Just after finalizing this agreement, all the doors of opportunities were opened. So Prophet of Islam and his companion tried to avail all those opportunities to spread their mission peacefully. There was interaction between Mecca and Medina people and different tribes. There was peaceful relationship between all the tribes. Before it was not. So Prophet of Islam um, by entering this agreement, Prophet of Islam um, eliminated the state of war, and there was peace. And And when there was peace, there were opportunities. So what happened? Within 2 years, the followers of Islam were so so outnumbered from the opposite party that even the number was enough to to achieve success. There was no Meccan people were not able to to fight because their number was so much. At that time, when the Prophet of Islam was under negotiation, at that time there were only near about 1,000 people, perhaps. I remember the exact number. But after two years, the number became 10,000. 10,000. So after this, the mission of the Prophet is spread all over the Arabia, in every tribes, every nook or corner of the country. So this was the policy of the Prophet of Islam. It is wrong to say that Prophet Islam gained success through sword. No, not at all. You know, there is a well-known scholar of America, that is Dr. Michael Hart. He has published a book, The Hundred, The Hundred, by Dr. Michael Hart. So in this book, he has placed the Prophet of Islam on the top. According to his list, Prophet of Islam was supremely successful person. Prophet of Islam was a man who achieved supremely success. So he was a supremely successful person in the whole history, in on both the uh, religious and secular levels. This is wording. But Dr. Michael Hart failed to refer the real cause of this success. What was the secret behind this success? How Prophet of Islam became superachiever? He mentions that Prophet of Islam was superachiever more than any other achiever. But in this book, I failed to find the reason why he was able to achieve this kind of super achievement. And this was due to this policy. In short, the Prophet's policy was, if I allowed to coin a term, I would like to say that his policy was non-political status quoism. In politics, he always opted for avoidance. So his policy was non-political activism and political status quoism. Non-political activism and political status quoism. And he accepted the political situation as it is. He never tried to change the status quo. No, in politics. He accepted those people who were political masters of that time. So his policy can be summarized in these two words: non-political activism and political status quoism. In political matters or in matters of political power, you have to be status quoist, accept things as it is. And then in other fields, other than political power, you can achieve all those opportunities. So it was the Prophet's movement was strictly a non-political movement. Prophet's movement was strictly a non-political movement. You know, when Prophet was appointed as patience for the sake of God, it means that avoid all kind of confrontation. When there is no confrontation, you can do according to your mission. But when there is confrontation, you have to keep patience. You have to avoid going ahead. This was the policy of the Prophet of Islam. So in political power, he was completely status quoist. And in other fields, in non-political fields, he was activist. It was this formula that was adopted by the Prophet of Islam, and this was the secret of his miraculous success. One Indian writer, he was from Bengal. His name was M.N. Roy. He was a very intelligent person. He has published a book, The Historical Role of Islam. In this book, he says that the achievement of Islam was miraculous of all miracles. It was a great miracle. But M.N. Roy again failed to refer the secret of his miracle. So there are so many historians who have acknowledged the achievement, the super achievement of the Prophet of Islam. But according to my knowledge, no one was able to mention the real cause, their secret. And that secret is this, that he adopted peaceful activism and not violent activism, just like present Muslims. Present Muslims have deviated from the prophetic path. Present Muslims have deviated from the prophetic path. Present Muslims opted for violent activity. Violent activism is not Islamic. It is not according to the Prophet's policy. It is going against the prophetic policy. So I would like to say that there is a book published by a Muslim writer. The title is Islam, the Most Misunderstood Religion. I would like to say that the title is wrong. The better title is that Islam, the most misrepresented religion. Muslims are misrepresenting Islam. This is the problem. They have deviated from the path, from the prophetic path. Their case is a deviated case. They are not following Islam. They are going against Islamic teachings, although they are doing the activities in the name of Islam, but it is wrong. So this is the gist of my study. I have studied a lot to understand in secular field as well Islamic field both. I have read so many books to understand the secular position, and also I have studied so many books to understand the Islamic position. I can say the violence is against reason and also against Islam. I would like to say that violent activism is against reason as well against Islamic teachings. Peace is the only option for us. Peace is the summum bonum. Peace is the only option for us. If we abandon peace, then we cannot achieve anything. We will go to failure. We have to adopt peaceful activism, peaceful method, peaceful way of activities. This is the law of nature. This is the divine law. This is the lesson I adopted from history. So we have to reassess the whole thing. We have to revise our activities. We have to replan our life. Now now the time is to replan our life. Now time is to reassess the whole thing. We have to revise our activities. Otherwise, there is no future. There is no hope. All those losses that Muslims are facing is nothing but they are paying the price of their own wrong policies. Muslims are paying the price of their own wrong policies. Muslims themselves are to be blamed. This is my sincere opinion after long study, unbiased study, an objective study. So now we have no time for delay. We cannot delay. We have to re-study Islam. We have to reconsider the whole thing. May God bless you. May God give you strength and courage to do like this. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم أجمعين.
This question is from Miss Razia. What is the definition of justice according to Islamic teachings? Can we get justice in this world?
In this world, to achieve justice is not possible. Not at all. Justice is achievable only in the day hereafter. You can see the result in our courts. There are millions cases, but no one is punished. No punishment. Every day there are crimes. If you read the papers or you see the TV, you'll find every day there are heinous crimes. Every day, but no punishment. Although there are a great administration of justice. Why? Because there are so many other factors that prevails. Factor of advocacy. There are so many advocates. These advocates only want fee, and then they become advocate of a crime, of a criminal. So how you can how you can control this system. Any criminal, if he have enough money to pay the fees of a successful advocate, he believes that no court will give me punishment. It happens every day. So there is a beautiful line in Urdu, जबकि दो मोदियों में हो खटपट, अपने बचने की फिक्र कर झटपट. So justice is, you cannot achieve justice from court, from administration. It is impossible. The result is enough to prove my point. So you have to keep patience. You have to plan your life on realities. You have to save yourself. No administrators of justice can save you. No judicial system can give you justice. You have to achieve justice by following the principle of sabr, principle of wisdom. This is my study also, this is my experience.
This question is from Miss Sara Fatima, Bangalore. What is the source of the false ideology of the present day Muslims?
You can find the answer by contacting any Muslim, XYZ. If you ask him any question, he will begin talking, but according to his own mind. No one will refer to Quranic verses or hadith. So they are doing according to their desires, according to their own mind, according to their emotions. So we have to, our mission is to convince Muslims that this kind of thinking is wrong. You have to study Quran, you have to study hadith, you have to study the life of the Prophet of Islam, and find out the true path of Islam without any bias, without any emotions. So Muslims have, in short, Muslims have deviated from the path of Islam. It is this deviation that has created all problems, present problems.
This question is from Mr. Khaja Kalimuddin from Pennsylvania. We hear a new word today, state terrorism. These are acts of terrorism conducted by governments. In your opinion, is there anything called state terrorism? If yes, is it allowed for the governments to conduct such acts Islamically? And what should be the response from people in this situation?
No, I don't subscribe with this notion. State terrorism was coined by so-called human rights activists. There is no such thing that is state terrorism. State is allowed to arm you, to use arms. When a state uses arms, so is allowed, but other organizations are not allowed. So all those activities by NGOs is basically wrong. Now it is fact that some states commit wrongs. Not only present states, even Muslim kings have committed so many wrongs. For example, Mahmud Ghaznavi came to India and he demolished the Somnath Mandir. It was wrong. So there is another issue. You cannot say that there is state terrorism. No. You can say that some kings, some rulers fail to follow the principle of justice, and you can refer their case in United Nations. Now you have United Nations. Previously it was not. So I can say that even what is called state terrorism is, is a lesson for us. For example, let us take the Iraq. Americans demanded Saddam to step down. He was a dictator. He was not a democratic ruler. So I think that it was a right demand. If Saddam Hussein um, was ready to step down, then there was no problem. So it was not state terrorism. It was wrong policies of Muslim leader that created problems.
This question is from Mr. Ramesh from New Delhi. Why do Muslims regard all non-Muslims as their enemies?
Muslims, due to most Muslims are basically emotional. All the Muslims are emotional. Also, they are ill-educated people. Muslims are backward in education. So they are not able to understand the spirit of the age. So they try to blame others. They cannot understand things in a broader perspective. So it has basically two reasons. They are emotional, and also they are ill-educated. So if you want to start a reform in Muslim society, you have to stick to one point formula, that is education. By education, I means any, higher education. Higher education. So this is the only problem, only solution. I can say that Muslims need education. You have to adopt single point formula. That is, you have to educate Muslims. Otherwise, there is no solution. Muslims are engaged in protest and demand, but protest and demand cannot pay. This is my experience.
Maulana, I wanted to ask a question. You mentioned in your talk that people usually quote verses out of context. And you mentioned about a verse which said that do not offer namaz when you are in the state of intoxication. Does that mean that even though intoxication is not allowed if you want to offer namaz, but otherwise it is allowed in Islam?
No, no. Shrab was in Shrab or alcohol, and the 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 commandments of Islam in this regard was given by gradual process. At the first instance, when when alcohol was not completely haram, they were given this choice. But then the other verse revealed, and according to this verse, alcohol was declared a completely haram. So this verse was revealed before the final commandment.
This question is from Miss Nagma, New Delhi. Muslim fundamentalists name their violent activism as jihad, but it is actually terrorism. Please tell us the difference between jihad and terrorism in the light of Islamic teachings.
I have given the definition that terrorism means the definition of terrorism is, according to Islam, use of arms by agencies other than state. This is terrorism. As far as the jihad is concerned, jihad literally means koshish, to strive, to struggle. In a peaceful struggle, jihad means peaceful struggle. There is a verse in the Quran, "Wajahidhum bihi jahadan kabira." Do great jihad with the help of the Quran. Wajahidhum bihi jahadan kabira. Do great jihad with the help of Quran. You know, Quran is not a sword, Quran is not a gun. So how you can do jihad by the Quran voluntarily? Quran is not source of violence. It means jihad means peaceful struggle, peaceful koshish. This verse is very clear that jihad means peaceful struggle. Jihad has nothing to do with violence.
Maulana, you mentioned also in your talk that Prophet believed in political status quoism, and his mission was not political. Then why is it so that when we look at the history of Muslims, we find that their main mission has been to establish a political empire, a Muslim political empire? Why is it so if they take Prophet Muhammad as the role model?
I don't think that Muslims' political empire was a phenomenon of Islam. It was a phenomenon of Muslim community. Because they abandoned the basic uh, responsibility. There is dawah work. All these empires, all these kings, all these political leaders abandoned completely dawah work. They were engaged in establishing political empire. So it was not Islam. I would like to say that all these things were deviation from Islam, because their duty was to spread Islam, to spread dawah, to, to work for dawah work, and they abandoned this duty. So they were running after their political ambitions and uh, not doing the dawah work. That was basic responsibility of all the Muslims.